What does it take to work for an organization for 60 years? What does it take to be in leadership roles for half of those 60 years? And what does it take to grow and build a $23 billion conglomerate, especially when you're not even a promoter? I'm talking about the chairman of Larsen Toubro, Mr. A.M. Naik. A man who started his journey with Larsen Toubro as a junior engineer and is now the head of the company. It's safe to say he has seen it all. His biography, The Nationalist, defines him well. He's been the force behind the company which is often called the nation builder. He has battled hostile takeovers. He has planned and executed the many diversifications of L&T. He has also been the force behind the acquisitions and even divestments of businesses within L&T. Mr. Naik will be hanging his boots as the chairman of L&T end of September. But before he goes, I'm happy to tell you that we have Mr. Naik joining us today for an exclusive interview where he'll talk about his journey and the company and the country he so loves. Welcome to Moneycontrol, Mr. Naik. So happy to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Mr. Naik, I remember 10 years ago when L&T was celebrating your 50th anniversary at the company, when you wrapped up the speech by singing two lines, Jeena yahan, marna yahan, iske siwa jana kahan. I'll start with that.
Iske siwa jana kahan. L&T is my life, is my home, is my temple, whatever you want to call it.
But are you ready to retire? I mean, if you are handing over the baton to Mr. Subramanian, I mean, what is the plan?
Actually, I'm very happy. Why? Because I'm leaving behind a platform from which the company can move up. And this flag of L&T we have designed now. So I'm going to hand over this flag to SNS to take it higher and higher.
Mr. Naik, it's been an incredible journey. I mean, there are the legendary story about how you got the job in this company and how your first boss in the interview thought that you are overconfident and actually, downgraded the offer. And from that to here, when you look back, what has been the constant driver in your career? What has driven you for these 60 glorious years?
I think you have to understand that I transform myself every 3 years depending on what the situation is like. I was a student and I was secretary. And in the final year, 29,000 students were there. So I was very busy in all other activities. You will be shocked to know that I hardly attended classes. And the professor used to say in the class and taunt me, there is one man who thinks he's come with a lot of percentage, good percentage in SSC doesn't mean he'll do well in the college, and he'll look at me. When I walked out of the gate, that day I said, student life is over. Now we have to work on corporate life. So I changed from a man who hardly attended classes to a person who never took a leave for 21 years and worked 15 hours a day from day one. And I married early, so my wife was alone at home many times. Believe me, at night the last bus was missed at 12 o'clock by me. So I slept on the table. My table, office table, I used to sleep. Up to 1:32, I'm taking a round. And I tell my wife that there was no phone. And bus had gone. This was initially. Then Mr. Baker, who recruited me, gave me a scooter after 2 years. And then he fought hard to give me an early car. All this happened because I made myself, in whatever I do, valuable to the company. And I loved what I wanted to do. And I wanted to build a platform which will help the country, the nation building.
You mentioned that you reinvented yourself every 3 years, and it's pretty much the same story with what has happened with L&T. From being, I mean, L&T has traditionally been seen as a proxy to the infrastructure story in the country, but as we talk, L&T is also in IT and is looking at green hydrogen and is looking at a big digital play. What drove you to kind of reinvent L&T as an organization into the creature that it has become now?
See, I think all of you, when you say L&T is a nation builder because we do infrastructure, but we used to do infrastructure very elementary. You know, now we have a most complex infrastructure project. Tallest statue of Sardar Patel, right? Then you look at coastal road. Then you look at 17 kilometer in the sea, the bridge. Yeah. Then you look at wide river, Brahmaputra, 3-4 kilometer bridge. Center of the river is deep. Center of the ocean is bridge. And then so many complex projects. You see the high-speed project. We used to do 5 crore project, 5. Today we don't do anything less than 1,000 crores. And the biggest projects, single project, is 25,000 crores. That is, it completely changed L&T, transformed L&T. I mean, just to say infrastructure is not, infrastructure what tankage is those days. Tankage is infrastructure. Ordinary road infrastructure. We don't even do the roads now because so many contractors can do. So around L&T, people don't realize it's not L&T, but the whole industry has come up. The entire infrastructure, you can say infrastructure, I call it construction, all the CEOs are from L&T. Wherever you go. So we have helped build the industry.
That is true. I mean, L&T has been a hub of talent also over the years. But Mr. Naik, like you said, it has been a big transformation. I mean, from just construction, and you've moved up the value chain. Even in
that time, you see, we have created from general workshop making dairy tanks today to number 1 heavy engineering complex in Hazira. If you have not gone, you should go. Believe me, today we make nuclear reactors, nuclear steam generator, aerospace equipment, defense equipment, all the 60 processes there are in the world, we are qualified by all. And 40% of the production is exported. You tell me any company who is trusted outside India. There are companies who said we will make only our equipment in L&T, not Indian companies. I am saying companies abroad.
So from this base, this diversified base, if you look at L&T right now, you have the different verticals, you have the different business units that you have created over the years. Now, as the transition is taking place, what would be the key targets that you would expect L&T to pursue going ahead? I mean, when you look at the new leadership under SNS, what are the 3 main things that you would want them to work on as far as L&T is concerned?
See, I had a principle that I will not start anything unless it will give me at 50 rupees a dollar then $1 billion. Otherwise, I won't do it. Second thing I decided the day I took over, that non-core I'll get rid of. And small businesses, either I will sell, and they are joint venture, many of them 50-50. I said either I buy or they buy. And because of that, 16 plus 1, 17 businesses I closed or sold. And made several businesses more than $1 million. Several. And partly I could do it because I brought focus. You imagine we were making also shoes. Do you know that? And we are about to enter into manufacturing of breads.
Bread.
Breads.
Bread or bread machinery?
Bread means mass scale breads.
My God.
And then fortunately, it was stopped. Then we were making bottles, glass bottles, that was closed. Or we sold it. So we used to do a lot of things which are absolutely not connected, and anybody got some idea because they had no idea. So somebody, why not we make, it has a good prospect, let's make bottles. And convinces the management and the bottles will be made. And then finally all this I had to clean it up. Now, all the manufacturing complex is required for a particular vertical, particular business are done. And next 20 years, the land which is required are already there. So you don't have to acquire a land. The platform is ready. All the businesses have their manufacturing plant with an expansion for 20 years. So there's a lot that can be done from the existing L&T vertical, modified in a manner that today's world wants them to be. On the top of it, completely new. Of course, there will be a lot of competition, and we have to see how we handle this. Green energy, right? And many times we get sold on this startup or this startup, small companies. And finally, two startups, we gave one to our LTI and one to LTTS, because we know that within India, they're not going to grow big. So we gave away there, and global, we need marketing network. All that was ready with the two IT companies. 2000, we were not in IT, it was zero. From zero, now we are fifth largest. So a lot has happened and changed from what it was. Today, 92% of L&T is during my time. I'm not saying I did it, our team did it. But originally, what was inherited was 8%. So, in a way, we are not inheritance people. We created them.
Fair enough. And that's been a constant process. I mean, it's hard to believe that L&T was thinking of making breads, but what you have...
No, don't take it serious.
No, I'm saying that the kind of diverse businesses that you have, I mean, it's incredible how L&T has diversified. What I wanted to understand is what next for L&T? Like you said that the base is ready, you have different segments, you have the sites available, you have a good team available now. What is going to be L&T's next big target in terms of growth or diversity?
Say every vertical, every let's say business segment we are in, we need to go to the next level and next level and next level of technology.
So up the value chain.
Up the value chain. Now you take IT, right? We talked about cloud 3-4 years ago as a big thing, right? Then we talk of automation, then we talk of digital, then we talk of AI now, right? Now, AI has a huge potential, but maybe after 5 years, something else will happen. And after 20 years, maybe we'll have to do a lot of work between India and the universe. I can't even think of what that will be. Nearer to that time, it will be known. So, I think L&T has to have a good talent, good leadership, good entrepreneurial thinking, and then the opportunities keep coming. We have to know which one to pick. And never take anything which is less than 1 billion. And nowadays, 1 billion looks small.
So scale would be important going ahead. Scale would be important.
Very scale, speed and scale, and the size. You have to make a size which is economically viable and make sure that you are ahead of competition.
Mr. Naik, the new businesses that L&T is looking at, whether it's the green energy, new energy, green hydrogen, or the digital space, now the market dynamics is very different. The competition is at an international level. For example, electrolyzers, you have a very interesting tie-up with Indian Oil Company and Renew Power. You are already putting things in place. But when we are looking at new business segments which are being, pursued by countries across the world, how is L&T going to be prepared for that? And do you think there is much more support needed from the government on these particular businesses?
Certain segment of the green power, I think government has to help industry. We are not getting into production of power. As usual, we get into a building of power plant or building of green power. And second thing, you must realize, you told me about international, lot of companies are working, which means international competition. Where have we not have international competition? IT is 95% international and started from zero. Look at all infrastructure, hydrocarbon. We now do at least 50,000 crore a year, which is outside India. So it is international. Last 4 years in a row, we have been rated as a number one company in Asia, other than China, right? So these are all international. We have to have basically a talent which is so good and so devoted that they can transform the company, whether it is in some other country, whether it is with applied technology, whether it is creation of new technology. Everywhere you got to have right leadership. And eventually, the leaders of the leader with the boss.
When you're talking about, the right leadership, the right people, I remember a long time back, you had shared this interesting perspective that one of the reasons why L&T looked at getting into IT services was also to retain talent, because a lot of young talent didn't want to really get into core sectors, constructions and engineering, and that paid off well for you in the long term. Now, we are in an environment where, we are talking about gig economy on one hand. You have youngsters who want to be content creators. Nobody wants to, soil their hands and build roads. Is getting right talent going to be a challenge for companies?
That's the biggest challenge for old economy, you can call it. Because everyone wants to go in high tech, everyone wants to go in research, everyone wants to make tremendous amount of money. And they know that if they work for somebody else, they'll make at best, let's say, few crores. And less than 10 crore is not worth going, they think. So, they are after startup, and that is how India has become one of the center in the world for many, many startups. And then there is IT companies growing. They want to go there. There are new technologies coming. Like I gave you AI, digital, automation, and clouds and so on. They all want to go there. And then lots of young people, they feel banking is a very good business. And all the banks are now very big. So there is a tremendous scope, with the result that for building the highways and building the very, very complex infrastructure, that too at a location where nobody will go. If you want to build a hydropower station or a tunnel in Himalayas, who will go? Please tell me. Even the parents will say to their son, please don't go. Under situation like that, how this industry must grow, because it is basic to national growth and nation building, is a very tough job. And you don't realize until you know your own friend or your own brother or sister involved in this business, how difficult it is. So what L&T depends on training, 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 training. So we have built our own institution, quite a few of them, one for management, one for project institution, manufacturing. So we create our own people from, you can say, middle-level engineers, not high-flying engineer who will go in the other industry which I explained, but taking the middle-level engineers. And it is a question of how middle-level. I was not IIT graduate because my father went to village and eventually he told me to go where I had to go. But destiny brought me to L&T and here I am. So, even when there are people from second level of institute, I believe the best students of second level colleges are better than first level colleges down the line, in the bottom quadrant. So take them and train them well.
That's interesting perspective, and it seems to be working for you. You've managed to get good people.
Well, to the extent that the whole industry has sourced them and they are becoming our competitors. But that's a way of life.
L&T is the biggest supplier of talent in the industry. That's true.
I can't call it supplier, but people ping them.
Absolutely, absolutely. They are valuable assets. Mr. Naik, 60 years with the company, I mean, I'm sure there have been ups and downs. Tell me, what has been the most difficult phase for you as the leader of L&T?
I tell you, I have gone through so many challenges, I can't even spend time to describe it. But the most difficult one is the challenge that we had a very small market cap. And we were susceptible to being taken over for 17 years. The sword was on our head. I realized that. So when I became a CEO, what happened? I had to face that situation in 2003, where one industrial house wanted to take us over. And they nearly took us over. But that is well known and well recorded case study, and we saved L&T. And today I formed employees trust, like Tata's have Tata Trust. We have employees trust, and that is now the biggest shareholder, and its value is 52,000 crore from zero. I mean, not let's say from nothing. And we have ring fence there for L&T to the extent possible. That had been the most challenging time. Day to day, there were challenges which lasted for nearly 22 months.
And now that
that is the time I had to run to Delhi almost every fortnight. And that also did good to me in a way that I could meet all the top leaders, right from Prime Minister, who has come from village, who doesn't even know who is the secretary to which minister. I suddenly was lifted from here and taken to meet the prime ministers and Deputy Prime Minister Advani ji, and NDA chairman Mr. George Fernandes, Jaswant Singh, the finance minister. Anyway, it had been a very, very challenging but at the same time, I took everything as hobby. So interesting. So I didn't carry a tension. I carry a tremendous amount of challenges. But at night I slept well. Of course, it may be few hours, 6 hours. Nowadays I sleep 8 hours. So it was a very challenging time. But I think from that, the L&T emerged stronger. And we wanted to do a lot of things which I described, what we should focus, what is non-core. All of that implementation was done. First time ever in the L&T's history, I launched a strategic plan in 2000. And from that strategic plan, we could emerge as a company will be known for what. So, there was one infrastructure company, small one, Today, each vertical within infrastructure, water vertical, all are above 15,000. Building and factories, heavy civil, electricals, metallurgicals, all are above 15,000.
Well, Naik, you mentioned something very interesting on how you interacted with the Prime Minister at the time when...
It was 5-10 minutes. With Advani, it was half an hour.
We are talking
But George Fernandes, I spent a lot of time.
Okay. What I wanted to understand is that L&T has been for the longest time, your focus being on infrastructure. These are sectors which very closely depend on government policies, government spend, and you have interacted with, at least 3 PMs during your tenure and worked very closely with many chief ministers, including our current Prime Minister, who was the Chief Minister of Gujarat when you were expanding in Gujarat.
But I was very much working with the previous Prime Minister also.
Right.
That was Mr. Manmohan Singh.
So I want to understand, how do you strike a balance in terms of, making the Prime Ministers or the political leadership understand what the industry needs and also manage within, the framework that they are setting in place? How did you manage that?
Well, I mean, building what India wants, and all that, I made sure everybody knew. And people like you also helped us do that by writing articles on what L&T stands for. I was very, very elated. Whenever I went and met Manmohan Singh ji, first thing he said, "Oh, how are you, Mr. Naik? You are from L&T, the national company." He used to call me national company. And when I went out of his office, I was virtually emotionally so much that today the number one of India calls L&T to be a national company. It did not remain there. When Mr. Modi came, many times they called me, "Naik, you are from national company." And there are 3 types of companies, Manmohan Singh used to say. Mr. Manmohan Singh, he said, there are government companies, there are private companies, there is only one national company, and that is L&T. And many ministers who I met, very, very strategically placed, used to tell me the same thing. So as today, I am very, very, let's say, satisfied of how we have positioned L&T, how we are respected, how we are branded, because we are honest, because we don't get involved in anything relating to politics.
But Mr. Naik, the one interesting thing about you has always been that you have been very open about your views about the industry and what is needed to be done for the industry. In fact, many a times, not just taking a stand for L&T, but infrastructure and power sector. You have been raising, for the longest time, you were raising issues about how Indian companies didn't have level playing field as against China. Did that ever pose a challenge with whichever party was in power? Were they always receptive to our ideas?
I have struggled whole life with respect to government policies. Something or the other is some other forces which were stronger than us were able to get it done as a policy, and we couldn't in some cases change it. So there has always been challenges. But I think as time has passed, and particularly in the current Prime Minister time, when he started talking Atmanirbhar Bharat, right, it has gone around very much. And what I was talking virtually as a single man, now today is a voice of many. So I think there are many corrections done in the policies, and therefore the suffering has been to an extent less.
In terms of what you just said, like about China, you have been raising this issue for a very long time. Now it's also a matter of national security, and the government is also very clear on their stand. Do you think the industry has actually responded and geared up in terms of being self-sufficient and not to rely on China for imports? Because to quite an extent, we are still dependent on them for a lot of issues.
When Mr. Nixon was the president, Henry Kissinger was there. Two of them helped, with Henry Kissinger taking more than 20 times visit to China, helped making China as a manufacturing base. And US was going more and more toward technological and research and so on, and slowly went out of manufacturing in many cases and depended on, let's say, China. And China made very good use of this opportunity, I can tell you. And being autocratic, they could implement many things which in India we can't, being a so-called democratic country. And they built such a base today that many things only they do. Now, everybody is talking in the world with the current geopolitical situation. On one hand, Poland and Russia at war, and the other hand, in the China's area, Far East, there is also a lot of tension. So everybody is talking about China plus one. That means they want one major base. It's a great opportunity for India if we straightened our policies and the environment, political as well as conducive to really getting things done in a very straightforward and peaceful manner.
Mr. Naik, you said the whole China plus one strategy, and it's an opportunity for India. The manufacturing sector, as much as we've been talking about it, it's not really picked up the way one would want it to be. And you spoke about streamlining and kind of making the environment conducive. If you were to give some advice to the government to kind of spur investment in that space, what would that be?
I think it is not that manufacturing has not picked up. We are becoming the second largest automobile manufacturer. That's a manufacturing. You see the old days where there was only one ambassador car and one Fiat car. And they used to make in thousands. Now we are talking of millions. And we therefore have grown quite a bit in manufacturing also. Steel plant. I mean, we today have made steel, we are self-sufficient. Have made steel plant maybe 50 times more than we made before. Look at cement plant. From 50 million capacity, we have now 400 million. So things have moved. In all other, you see the capital, I mean the consumables. Consumable, we are self-reliant. We are not importing. Then electronics, whether it is TVs or whether appliances, we make in India. We are relying on aeronautical abroad. But even then, some beginning has been made, and the Hindustan Aeronautic is now started making one plane at least. But I think India has spent 50 years not very, very wisely. We should have spent a lot of time in making, like China, self-sufficient in defense. We are not. You can see we are importing from US, we are importing from France, we are importing from Russia. Question is, a think tank should decide when will that stop and when will India make, and this is in lakhs of crores. So while some indigenization has taken place, some movement has happened, lot more has to happen, lot more. And we have, government has invested heavily in Hindustan Aeronautics. Somebody should ask, why in 50 years Hindustan Aeronautics have not come up to a point like China did it in less than that? to manufacture planes of all kinds, including commercial planes. Very complex manufacturing, very highly competitive manufacturing at the lowest price. Why we can't compete on manufacturing of smartphones with China? China makes it for the world. 80% by quantity or 70% of them are made by China. India has just started, but the India depends on components, again back from China. So we have to have our ancillaries very strongly placed to support the final product.
So at this stage, given this background, what makes you bullish on India?
I am bullish because things are happening. Believe me, they are happening. But my point, I am a restless man. My point is it should happen faster.
Speed.
Speed and scale.
You are a restless man, and we have seen you being up and about all the time. Now that you are stepping out of the chairman's office, you still would be heading the trust that you mentioned earlier. How do you see your role going ahead, and what kind of role would you want to have with L&T going ahead?
I am a well-wisher of L&T. I am highly satisfied of way the L&T has come up to this point. And I will be the chairman, is a chairman of the trust, which owns biggest owner, biggest shareholder. And it is running many schemes to help retired L&T people as well as the current L&T people beyond what L&T can do out of its own medical scheme or promoting sports or so on. And there is a very creative lot of work to be done in the trust, which I am going to do and doing it now. So I am busy. See, the point is, if you want to, you can be busy and do a productive work on almost anything because there is so much to do in this world. And then I am very busy in my charity and philanthropy. And I'll do more, and that is the larger cause of society. And again, trust is a larger cause of employees' well-being and ex-employees' well-being. So I am on a larger canvas. Don't forget that. And then I am always the well-wisher of L&T. I keep talking to them. Even I will keep talking to our chairman, Mr. S.N. Subramaniam. And being a trust chairman, I'm sure whoever is there will always be happy to talk to me.
Absolutely. I mean, they are looking at you as the guardian who will continue to give them advice. But Mr. Naik, tell me something. In all these years, you have literally grown L&T, in bits and pieces, and
Not bits and pieces, hell of a lot.
Adding bits and pieces into a huge conglomerate. Did you ever think of doing something on your own? Did you ever think that if I'm doing it for L&T, I could have done it for my venture?
Well, let me tell you this. L&T has been a tremendous support. So from zero, when I thought of starting IT, totally away from L&T's mainstream, right? At the back of my mind was, L&T there. Now, if I had to start that IT, I would make a small startup. And I'm not mentally geared for starting anything small. Even what I have done, any business, less than $1 million is not in my mind. That is how L&T from being a very small company is 23 million because now dollar is 82 rupees. Otherwise, we would have been 28 billion.
But there was never hunger to own a company or to have that ownership.
Well, not until now, and now I think we have created, not that they are not created, we have created many hospitals, many schools. That's a creation.
Absolutely. Mr. Naik, we spoke about the startup culture, the thriving startup culture. a lot of youngsters trying to do, stuff on their own, trying to, going through the drills. What advice will you give to the younger lot which is trying to make it big in business, build something?
See, the point is the core technology or whatever they are trying to do with a new world, right? Or most modern world as now it is, advanced world. I don't even understand many of it. And I'm very honest from this thing. And therefore not competent enough to give them advice in many sectors. But in general, I want to advise them not to rush into anything just because you have in mind to become a person to be another billionaires. Everybody doesn't become billionaire. Statistically, therefore, 8.5 or 8 or 9 out of 10 do not succeed. And they don't succeed because they rush without a proper study what they are starting. How many people in South America, in Far East, China, Japan, US, Canada are anyway doing? And can you stand up to that?
And what would you think is that one quality that a leader needs to have to take the team, along with them? And also help me understand, as a leader, how do you sleep well at night when you are dealing with hostile takeovers? How did you manage that part of it?
Well, you said to me, what was the most challenging time? And I said, most challenging time was 2003 and 4. But did it mean that I had no sleep or I was sleepless night? Maybe 1 or 2 nights odd will go sleepless. But otherwise I slept well. Why I slept well? Because every challenge I took it as a hobby. And I enjoy. And if I have no challenge, I start wondering what will I do. Right? So I think it had been, I lived with challenges, put it this way. And without challenges, I'm a little unhappy man. I may have more tension.
That's an interesting way to put it, Mr. Naik. Mr. Naik, you have been honored by the government with a Padma Vibhushan, a very, very rare award for somebody from the business. Of course, many awards and many, honorary events have happened for you. Help me understand, over these years, what kind of response have you got from your peers? And among your peers, do you think you got the kind of respect that, because you have stood for the industry many times, do you think your peers have given you that?
Are you saying peers within the company or outside?
Industry. No, not within the company.
I think you can ask some people. Then you will know. But by and large, entire industry has respect for me. That's what I feel from what they react when I go to them. But people like you can find out.
It's been a very interesting journey. Now I want to know something personal. How is your family preparing for Mr. Naik after L&T? I mean, it will be very difficult to take L&T away from you. Agreed with that. But, not going to office every day. How is your office?
I'm here every day.
So the routine does
6 hours a day. 1:30 to 6:30 and many times 12 to 6. There's not a day I'm not doing any work, because if nothing else, I do my charity work. I plan all my charity planning and meetings and cash planning and all that. It is an institute by itself.
You have often said how your wife has never complained about not getting time because...
I would say without that, I would not have been able to do what I did. As I told you, I slept on the table. How many current wives are going to tolerate that? Please tell me.
But will she get more time now?
Very, and that is what sometimes I worry about.
Any last thoughts on what you want to see in L&T next?
I think great company becoming greater is what I want to see L&T. It's a great company, and I want to see it greater.
Fair enough, Mr. Naik.
In all respects. And I'm hopeful. Why I'm hopeful? Because I think it has a good leader, great leader. That gives a hope that it might happen and will happen. Until 25th, I have told the ambassador I can't continue beyond 25. I'm still the chairman of both the IT companies for 1 year. Next July, I'll give up. And I'm still the advisor of L&T up to 25. That I have only decided. 25, I give up everything. I'll only run the trust and my two trust, social work.
Are you taking a break after you officially step out of the chairman's cabin? Are you taking a holiday to celebrate?
No, because you see here, you don't know, but I have in the wound, which is not settling down for a year. So it pains me when I walk. Therefore, I don't have boots. I don't have shoes because that rubs and pains.
Perhaps time to give it a little rest?
Yeah, and I'm enjoying a rest also. See, the beauty of it is anything you do or not do, you must enjoy. So I am happy. My son came back after 29 years.
Oh.
And do you know he has not taken US passport? He has an Indian passport. 99% people have US passport. And he tells me I am an Indian and I will have Indian passport. He has come back. That gives me some relief because he goes every week to our village for all the hospitalization. His wife goes in Bombay for our hospital and this thing. My sister, daughter, helps a lot in our philanthropic work. So I have, like L&T here, also set up an organization.
So in the family, you have created a parallel organization which is working for the social causes.
You can call it organization better, but it is a self-made. All of them enjoy what is given to them.
Fair enough, Mr. Naik. Mr. Naik, of course, we'll keep in touch with you and hope to get more perspective on all the different initiatives you are running. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very well. Thank you very well.